This is the Nations Conspire channel. Welcome to today's show. NATO is warning that Vladimir Putin is threatening a worldwide blackout as they have issued a chilling warning. Now, I'm not covering this because I want people to be fearful of a worldwide blackout. I'm covering this because the reason people should be suspicious of these types of stories is because the people they're telling you that are going to do these things to you are not the people who are really responsible. Remember, your government is conspiring with the other governments, as in NATO and the United Nations. These globalists who run all of our countries are conspiring together to do this to the people. They always want you to think that one of these boogeymen are responsible for it. Remember, we hear of Putin and we hear of China's Xi Jinping. We hear about these people because when stuff actually goes down, the last thing that could ever happen is the people realizing that they've been duped, that the political parties that they tell you exist don't really exist, that your own government and this small group of people who were unelected were responsible with sabotaging your life, who, would be responsible for a massive worldwide blackout. And that's, of course, part of an actual great reset. So anytime this stuff gets whispered, remember, they're conditioning you so that when they do go through with this, whether it's a massive EMP or just some type of massive power outage where they literally press the off switch, they're going to still feed you a narrative that hackers from Russia are responsible or hackers from China are responsible. They'll never allow you to think that it's your own government who's doing this to you, because these people are all out of arm's length. You're not getting to China to go and confront the Chinese government and the Chinese military. And if you did get there, you wouldn't live long enough to actually confront any of them. And you're not getting into Russia to go over there and confront those people. But at the same time, your own military has been trained and prepared to turn against you, because you should be able to see the narratives now that the enemy that exists from within. They're training you to think that the people in the opposite political party, the people of the opposite skin color, are your actual enemy. They're training you for a potential grid shutdown, for potential chaos to ensue. That's all that this is about. And remember, people still think, which is amazing to me, they still think that the Great Reset has already happened. They think that the Great Reset was getting people to poison themselves a few years ago. The Great Reset has not occurred yet, because the Great Reset will literally reset everything. And I know there's people out there that don't believe that they would actually shut the grid down for an extended period of time because they think that they will lose their control over humanity. But actually what it will do is it'll give them more compliance from humanity to do as they're told, because people will be begging for the power to come back on. People will be begging the government to step in and provide assistance and provide food and provide water. That's what they're planning on doing. I don't know when, none of us do, but we've seen the programming for a long period of time where they've told us that the best way to destabilize a government, to destabilize a people, would be by performing a massive grid shutdown. It could be 3 weeks, it could be 3 months. But keep in mind, everybody out there thought that the big depopulation agenda that we've all heard about for years and years, the Dago report, everybody thought that it's already occurred in 2020 and 2021, and that people are just going to suddenly croak in 2025 and 2026. But remember, with a grid shutdown, you will effectively kill off more people with a grid shutdown than you would with any type of magic potion, because not every single person that took the potion died immediately. A lot of people got long-term illnesses, long-term side effects. But with a grid shutdown, you're talking about utter chaos. The majority of people have nothing stored up. They have no food. They have no water. The people who think that they're awake have been busy storing up gold and silver, thinking that, well, if the grid goes down, I'll have some gold bars, and maybe I'll be able to go to my neighbor's house and get a can of soup for my gold bar. Your neighbor's going to say, I don't want a gold bar. I got 5 cans of soup left. That gives me a couple days left to live. And most of these people obviously don't know that you even need water to survive, as I've said many times over. The majority of the youth out there literally think you can drink ocean water to survive. They literally think that you could just continue on without water. And of course, they only expect to get food and water by calling Uber Eats because that's what they've been trained to do. So let me read to you what NATO is saying. Remember, this is all propaganda from the supposed deep state because all these guys are puppets working together. We've learned this throughout a long period of time here, exposing the World Economic Forum, the global young leaders, right? We know Putin's one of them. We know Trudeau's one of them. We know they're all in on this together. NATO is concerned that the Kremlin could unleash a new weapon against the world, causing worldwide blackouts by sabotaging undersea cables with its shadow fleet. And again, they don't even really explain to you how underground cables would shut the power off in somewhere like Chicago, say, right? Or somewhere like Alaska, or somewhere like North Dakota, that these underground cables would somehow shut off electricity and cause a worldwide blackout. Not to mention that they're using wordage in some of these articles about an internet shutdown, which we know would only be temporary. But don't forget, an internet shutdown, we got those Starlinks all floating around on balloons above us, and that also plays into what their plans are. So, worldwide blackouts by sabotaging undersea cables with its shadow fleet. Executives from companies such as Vodafone, Orange, and Telefonica have penned an open letter to the UK, the EU, and NATO, warning that Russia could easily destroy or disrupt the defenseless cables following a series of attacks. So, one thing that we all know is that all of these world leaders who are not elected are all working with corporations. So, Vodafone isn't going to be targeted by Vladimir Putin. This would be Vodafone agreeing to allow all of their technology to be sabotaged, right? To move forward for the greater good, which to them is a new world order. In their letter, they stated the repercussions of damage to subsea cables extend far beyond Europe, potentially affecting global internet and power infrastructure, international communications, financial transactions, and critical services worldwide. And remember that with financial transactions, because if you get a 3-month shutdown, you get the grid off, even for a couple of weeks, people will be thrilled when it comes back on. But guess what? That's really what a great reset is, because when your bank account is at zero and they say, well, this was a massive worldwide hacking by Russia and cyber criminals, what are you going to do about it? You're going to be angry about it? Of course. But then when you realize that your neighbor has nothing in his bank account, and the guy across the street has nothing in his bank account, and your cousin has nothing in his bank account, you're just going to suddenly accept it and allow the government to come in and say, look, we've got a universal basic income. We can't keep track of how many people lost this or lost that. They destroyed the entire infrastructure. And people will go along with it. They will be so worn out from any temporary grid shutdown that they will just be thrilled to be able to take a shower again or to have running water again. But that's really where the rationing aspect starts coming into play, and universal basic income. And you got to love how they're talking about global internet, right? That's a key term, global internet. So if you have like Xfinity, or you've got Optimum or Cablevision or one of these, or AT&T, well, do you ever think to yourself that it's running on a global network? No, but who do we know is bragging openly about being Skynet? I mean, Starlink, right? Who is telling us that no matter what, a massive grid shutdown could occur, you won't go offline. And Starlink will come to the rescue. But don't forget, Starlink and Elon Musk are the same people. I continually will warn you, and I will warn you until the day I drop dead. They're the same people who are saying, we've got these satellites above us, and you'll never go offline. However, we're going to not have phones in a few years. And nobody's going, well, what are we going to hook up? Well, you're going to hook up to the Internet of Bodies, the collective consciousness, right? As this technocracy continues to get built out around us. So they added that subsea cable security must be a cornerstone of broader infrastructure protection efforts. By acting now, we can safeguard the networks that underpin our shared future. Meanwhile, Putin threatens worldwide blackouts as NATO issues a chilling warning. Approximately 95% of the world's data is transmitted over 500 cables that span the ocean floor. Sure. And I'm sure that the intel agencies all around the earth whether it's China's intel agencies or M16 or CIA or whoever, or Mossad. I'm sure they're perfectly fine with Putin going rogue and blowing all this up and destroying all of that data. Well, of course, they're going to pretend like all the data is destroyed, because when it comes back on, they don't want you to have any money in your bank account. That's what the Great Reset really is. That's the destruction of the middle class, where they say, look, we've taken a hit on a world stage, and we can't get any of this information back. It's all gone. But what we can do is move forward with technology, make sure it doesn't happen again. And that's when these brain-computer interfaces come into play, where they say, look, we could get this technology inside your body and never have to worry about something like that occurring again. And these people will be so dumb, because I know you're listening and you're saying, well, wait, so you're telling me they're going to do a massive cyber attack, then these people will be dumb enough to put the tech inside their body? Oh, yeah, because all they need to do is hear some of their heroes on television tell them that it's perfectly safe and that it's unhackable. But the reality of the matter is they then become hackable animals, as all of our friends at the World Economic Forum call us, right? From Yuval Harari to Klaus Schwab, that humans are hackable animals. But they won't be thinking like that. They'll still be calling us conspiracy theorists. That's why nobody out there should give these people any credit anymore. Don't give them credit and say, no way anyone's going to fall for it. Because we just saw people, and we still see people wearing masks in 2025, for starters. There's still people who are going and getting mRNA, right? You might not hear about it, but there's still people. You still see the signs up at the pharmacies and stuff. Sometimes if you wander in there, you'll see one of the zoo creatures going and getting another injection, right? So don't give these people credit, because look at everything we're seeing with MAGA now and how these people have fallen for this false flag, this literally this psyop, because it wasn't even a real bullet, where this guy supposedly almost got whacked and then almost got whacked again. And somehow he's just free now. They just quit. How come the deep state hasn't tried to go after him again? Oh, because God's protecting him, right? That's what we're supposed to do. They tell you that God's protecting him. So if you say this stuff, then you're not a believer, because they're under such hypnosis that they can't actually see the truth when it's so easy to see. So people will fall for this. So it says, despite Russia's denial of involvement, most nations are convinced that Putin is orchestrating the sabotage. Yeah, he's organizing it along with your president and your prime minister, and wherever you might be listening to this, they're all working together. These are characters. These are character actors, literally. These are people who have been actors, from Zelensky to Trump, who have acted in films like Home Alone 2 or had reality TV shows. They're literally actors. They're not even just calling them actors. They're literally actors. Zelensky was an actor, right? And of course, we know Putin was trained by the World Economic Forum at a young age to be the character that he's playing now, that big, bad Russian villain who is threatening to shut off electricity. And, your Canada's threatening to shut off electricity. Russia's threatening to shut off the internet around the earth. Apparently, they have a switch where they could shut off everybody's Wi-Fi, right? Oh, right. What about the Starlink? Oh, we don't get anything like that. So when they do shut down, remember that. Since October 2023, most of the 11 reported attacks have taken place in the Baltic Sea, because they're claiming that there have been incidences in the Baltic Sea, with additional incidents in the North Sea, heightening European leaders' concerns over a potential large-scale sabotage operation by Russia, particularly after their spy ship was caught mapping underwater infrastructure in the North Sea. UK Defense Secretary John Healey directly accused Putin when he delivered a stern warning in January. He said, quote, I also want Putin to hear this message. We see you. We know what you're doing. We will not shy away from robust action to protect this country. What a joke. As the UK, I just really can't get past the fact that people out there actually think that these people are not conspiring together. I just can't get past the fact that they think this stuff, and they talk like it's a B-level movie. We're not going to take that from you, Mr. Putin, right? Meanwhile, we have the intel agencies, we have DARPA, we have all this technology that your government sells you every day, like cell phones, like Neuralinks, that people are buying and wanting in their life, these spy devices that are inside of everyone's home, right? But these guys, these actors, we're supposed to believe are responsible for this, responsible. Yeah, they're responsible for sabotage, but they're the ones conspiring with your government. They're not going from all the way over in Russia to do any of this stuff. Your government's working from within to do that. Where do you think all this divide and conquer propaganda is coming from, right? Every country is getting divided like this right now. Spain, you name it. Australia, all countries being divided by politics, right? And how convenient we've been programmed with the Purge movies and some of the other movies I'll show you at the end here, even Leave the World Behind, right? Where they prepared you for your government to destabilize the people, right? To bring down the infrastructure. How do they do that? Well, with EMPs and weapons that they have that they tell you that they aren't going to ever use on you. They've developed these for other countries. And then years go by, threats from other countries go by. They never use it on one another. You watch how some of these countries wage war on one another, supposedly, right? But they're really waging war on the people. And then you go, well, why didn't they just do that? You know, why didn't they do this to destabilize the other country? Why are they blowing up kids? Oh, well, we don't, we need to clear it out. We got some smart cities that we need to build here, right? So the other thing I want to discuss is that the Russian propaganda has been going on for so long that people are so desensitized to it, but these same stories come out every year. Every year, right? Russia attempting to develop nuclear space weapon to destroy satellites with massive energy wave, right? That's them talking about EMP. Last year, Today's Show, federal surveillance program, Russia's national security threat to the U.S., talking about satellites serve as a crucial backbone for U.S. civilian communications, navigation, military operations, and intelligence gathering, right? We heard all this Russian space nuke propaganda that they were putting out there. That's all to prepare you for an electromagnetic pulse, really. Because when something like this occurs, you think about how is this transition going to go from cell phone to something in the body? I believe in EMP because an EMP will short circuit all tech. So no matter what you have. So you might sit there and go, well, if they short circuit all the tech, how do they have control over the people? Well, you don't think the people will beg for new technology if the government comes to their door with some DARPA tech and says, hey, now you got to have the brain-computer interface or something like that, or you never go back online. Right? You think people are going to realize after a couple of months offline that they're going to want to live offline? Yeah, some people will. But the majority of people, have you been to a mall? Have you been to a city recently? Those people aren't even going to survive 3 months. But if they do, they'll literally do whatever Big Brother says. Bend over, Big Brother? No problem. How many times? Will I get a phone? Well, you get one in your body. Sure, no problem. Please just give me my electricity back, is what they will say. And here's some of the clips just from some movies over the years where I've shown and broken this down many times, from Leave the World Behind to other films that show you what an EMP would look like and how they would literally, and that's the common theme. It really is. With these movies that have major blackouts, if it's not some man-made weather phenomenon, it's usually an EMP because you see, and they don't tell you this out loud because most people don't get it. You see cars just shut down in the middle of the road, right? Leave the World Behind, right? Some of these other shows I'll play for you right now, where they literally will show you, oh, a computer, you have a computer in this? Well, the computer's going to short circuit. So whatever's operating on a computer, they will short circuit. They're not just going to press off and then it's going to come back on and all your tech is going to work. Remember, they want to condition you into getting the tech in your body. But here's some of the predictive programming out there for anyone out there that hasn't seen. And this has been very constant over the years. And this is technology that they can very easily deploy anytime they want.
Online this morning and I rented us a beautiful house out by the beach.
Oh, this is nice. This looks so happy.
The Wi-Fi isn't working.
I'm so sorry to bother you, but this is our house.
This is your house?
We were driving back to the city, then something happened. I need to think everything's gonna be okay.
We are seeing ongoing cyber attacks across the country.
Something is happening and I don't trust them.
I would do anything to protect my family. What you do is your business.
Get in the car right now!
Haven't you been picking up on what's going on out there?
Whatever it is, it's happening to all of us.
What is the truth?
To me very, very carefully.
Look at that.
It's all going to turn off.
What?
It's going to turn off, and it will never, ever turn back on. Everything is going to turn off.
Ben, did I lose you? No.
What just happened here is happening everywhere. We need to get to that bunker Danny told us about, and we need to get there now. You know something? I had a sneaking suspicion, but I wanted more information first. All the signs were there, sure, but I I didn't want to scare anyone, call me crazy because it is crazy. It would have made more sense if we were on the brink of an all-out invasion. I didn't think we'd actually let something like this happen. I thought we were smarter than that. My primary client works in the defense sector. I spent a lot of time cost-benefit analysis of military campaigns. There was one program in particular that terrified my client the most. A simple three-stage maneuver that could topple a country's government from within. The first stage was isolation. Disable their communication and transportation. Make the target as deaf, dumb, and paralyzed as possible. For the second stage, synchronized chaos. Terrorize them with covert attacks and misinformation. Overwhelming their defense capabilities, leaving their weapon systems vulnerable to extremists in their own military. Without a clear enemy or motive, people would start turning on each other. The third stage would happen on its own. What's the third stage? A coup d'etat. Civil war. Collapse. This program was considered the most cost-effective way to destabilize a country. Because if the target nation was dysfunctional enough, it would, in essence, do the work for you. Whoever started this wants us to finish it.
So that's the more likely scenario, in my opinion. And again, this is my opinion. You're allowed to have a different opinion. This isn't a channel where you have to agree with everything that I say. We're all like-minded people. We're not operating in a vacuum. This is not a hive mind. I know there's people out there that listen that don't think there's any chance that they would ever shut electricity off because they wouldn't want to lose control. But remember, with Starlink and a grid shutdown, right? And then even if they don't use an EMP, people will be able to access Starlink. Now, if they do use an EMP, a lot of people's tech will short circuit, but there's still going to be communication that they send out. Somebody's going to go somewhere and find something like an old transistor radio, something that would potentially survive an EMP, okay? Or they might have something in the basement that's underground that the EMP can't hit. And they're going to feed the propaganda that way. And they're going to feed you the same propaganda you're hearing about Russia and who's responsible. They're going to get you to, we got to go after them, right? Just like they did in 2001, where every single person was duped into thinking that these guys wearing towels were in caves responsible for it. And there's still people out there that think so. You still see the MAGA crowd. They still spew that. And you just go, wow, how asleep could you possibly be? So for anybody out there that's not familiar with an EMP, with technology your government has had for a long time, this is something they could very easily deploy. But remember, they want you to think that somehow it's a country all the way over there like Russia or all the way over there like China who's doing it. But the governments of the earth can all do this at once using their own military. And I believe that's what they plan on doing.
We hit every target we wanted to. We prosecuted everyone. We made science fiction science fact.
We're not quite up to the place where the Star Trek and Star Wars movies are, but this is definitely an advancement in technology to be able to give us an opportunity to do things that we couldn't do before.
When that computer went out, when we fired, it actually took out the cameras as well. We took out everything on that. It was fantastic.
A panel of experts at the Universal Peace Federation has now issued a warning on the growing threat of EMP or electromagnetic pulse weapons. Such an attack can knock out virtually all communications and other critical services of countries in a matter of minutes. For long, experts have warned that key electrical infrastructure in the United States remains particularly vulnerable to an electromagnetic pulse attack or EMP, likely to be orchestrated by China, North Korea, or even Russia. The Universal Peace Federation specialists have now said that the US is at a pivotal moment if it wants to avoid a potential doomsday scenario. But to analyze the risk, we must first understand what an EMP is and how it can be weaponized. An EMP weapon is one that directs a massive explosion of energy over an intended target, much like lightning. But in contrast to other conventional weapons, an EMP explosion does not physically harm humans. What it does, though, is cripple all electronic devices and infrastructure within its radius. The weapon at first is glided directly above an intended target. These weapons, according to the US nomenclature, are classified as high-altitude electromagnetic pulse, or HEMP. A HEMP attack can interfere with radio frequency and instantly produce damaging voltage in electronic devices across thousands of miles. It can hinder fuel distribution, transport, food and water supply, and most importantly, communications, especially military communications. Such attacks can permanently immobilize vehicles with modern electronic ignition and control systems. Several congressional hearings and commissions in the US have flagged the vulnerabilities of the American power grid. In 2015, a congressional committee testified in a joint hearing to discuss EMP weapons and preparedness. It asserted that a nationwide grid collapse, either via HEMP attacks or other conventional methods, had the potential to wipe out up to 90% of the American population. According to an analysis by the Task Force on National and Homeland Security, China already possesses so-called super EMPs. Analysts now fear that China's recent test of a new hypersonic glide vehicle last summer could give it impetus to deploy a high-altitude EMP against the United States. Though the US keeps much of its EMP weapons capability classified, it is known that the US Air Force High-Powered Microwave Advanced Missile Project, or CHAMP, is now being expanded. In October last year, a massive power outage in Mumbai in India brought India's financial capital to a grinding halt. In the wake of the disruption, Chinese hackers were blamed for launching a cyber attack. But it did offer just a sliver of the kind of destruction that a similar attack, in this case through an EMP, could actually achieve. Of late, governments worldwide have expanded mitigation measures against other forms of advanced warfare, including cyber attacks. As for nuclear weapons, all major world powers have them and conform to the mutually assured destruction doctrine for deterrence. But based on the US's own assessment and preparedness against EMPs, there is still much more to be done.
So again, that's what it looks like, right? You could see this is the type of thing that most people don't actually understand. But I'm all for EMP technology, for the civilians having it, right? Because this is really the only way you could destabilize their military, or you could destabilize their their Tesla bots. We all talk about, well, they're going to send these things out. They're going to send these robo-dogs out. And everyone's like, I'm going to shoot it with my gun. It's going to do nothing. They're bulletproof. But something like we could shoot an EMP at them, well, that would destabilize them. But they don't want you to think like that. And then, of course, they make it virtually illegal or impossible to have something that could have the capability. Because you have to have a very strong EMP. You can't build one from Radio Shack. Okay, that's going to be strong. I mean, maybe somebody out there can. God bless you if you have the ability to do it, right? But the majority of us don't know how to do that, and especially to make one that's like military grade. But we do see EMPs used. We see them in, shoot down drones and things like that. And remember, with the whole drone psyop that we got in New York and New Jersey a couple of months ago, they were telling you if you shot the drones down from the sky, you'd be arrested, right? And most of the people out there didn't figure out that they would need something that would send a pulse to the thing to actually shoot it down. There were people, I guess, with guns shooting down the wings and some of those things, but the DARPA drones that they have are not like the drones that we see at Best Buy. They're massive, massive drones. And those drones can send EMPs as well. There's many different ways that they could shoot EMP signals to any one of us, but it would be orchestrated, obviously, between the world government. So just another, Vladimir Putin threatening a worldwide blackout. Do I think it's going to occur right now? Probably not. Do I think it's going to occur in my lifetime? Probably so. I do. And it's important to note that, I'm not trying to make you fearful, but I always tell people, you should have a good amount of food and water saved up. And it's hard to save some of this stuff up, especially when, if you got water sitting for 10 years, you got to have pellets in there to clean the water, process the water. Obviously, if you have a well, you should maybe think about getting a pitch pump and things like that. But these are all things I always tell people no matter what, because worst case scenario, you die with a food supply. Worst case scenario, you die with water. And you go, oh yeah, that crazy conspiracy guy was telling me that there was going to potentially be a worldwide blackout, so I got all this food. Well, if it does hit the fan, you will be more thankful than ever that you actually have that food, because there's probably not much of a worse way to die than dying of dehydration and starvation, even though I'm sure we could think of torture methods that would be pretty agonizing None of us have actually died of starvation yet or died of dehydration. But I know after like a day or, fasting for 24 hours or 48 hours, you're certainly in a lot of pain and want some food, right? Well, imagine a week or two, because you can go a while without it. But you will lose energy, you'll be fatigued, you'll be sick, right? You'll be cotton. I mean, just not something that I don't think anybody would actually want to experience. But they have been telling us for a long time about potential blackouts occurring. And the reason they tell you this isn't for you to go and get prepped. They tell you this because they want to establish who's responsible in your mind. And then when it plays out, they want you to repeat and believe whatever they feed you. If they didn't give you the Vladimir Putin crap or all the China crap, and this went down, who would you hold responsible? You probably hold your own government responsible because you say this happened on your watch. You're supposed to be protecting us. You're supposed to be working for us. Well, it was Vladimir Putin. It was China who did this stuff. And then the people will believe it because they've been programmed into actually believing it. There's never a resolution. They don't come out and go, hey, the government found out that there's cyber attackers in Russia. And they shut down Bank of America. You ever hear about these people getting arrested? Of course not. It's all boogeymen that they make up because they're conditioning you with those stories. There's never hey, there's a trial this week. Remember when AT&T went down for 24 hours? We found the guys in Russia. The whole reason that they did that is, well, we don't know because there's no real motive. But they wanted to mess around with people in America and troll them, right? The people probably believe that. You don't even get the fake trials. Just like you don't get your trials whenever there's a false flag government-created event, especially the ones that occur at schools. I thank everybody for being here. I hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.